going into 12 o'clock now, it's probably a really good time to kick off and just say, hey, everybody, and
Oh,
welcome to the Hello Friend Foods webinar, which I'm just going to be hosting here from Birchal. My name is Robin, and I have been working with Brie and Matt here, the founders of Hello Friend Foods, for a few weeks now. It feels like a long time that we've been working on this to get it all up and running, and it's really exciting because we're actually looking to open up the investment offer on Tuesday next week. And as a lot of you will know, we've been running an expression of interest campaign on the Birchal site for a few weeks now. And there's over 650 people who have expressed their interest to invest into this early stage dairy-free cheese company. So I'm hugely excited. And actually, even from a personal perspective, I've been, dairy-free for over 4 years. So I've tried your product well before I even met you. Absolutely loved it. And so personally, I'm incredibly excited to be working with you here. So less about me and more about you. I'd love to really just understand the backstory of how this business came about, how you two ended up founding this business now, which really has grown a lot over the past few months up to COVID. I know that COVID obviously created some barriers for you when it first hit, but I'd really just love to understand the breakdown of your business and how you got here.
You want to start? It starts with you.
yeah, it starts with me. Okay, so from the beginning, I had been vegan for about a year when I was just looking for cheese. As anyone who's looking to transition over to a plant-based diet, you think, what are my cheese options? Because everyone loves cheese. It's it's so important and chemically addictive. So I was looking for that quick and easy kind of substitute, and I was having trouble finding what I wanted. There were some options that were out there, but none of them were really what I was personally looking for.
Sure.
So I thought, why not make my own? I had some free time over the Christmas break, and I thought, I'll just start, if I can make something that's sort of a semblance of maybe a mozzarella, then it's something, and I made it myself, and there's that little satisfaction that goes along with that. So I'll try it. And I gave it a shot and just kept trying and trying. And the more I tried, the more I was inspired to keep trying. So these baby little wins were just giving me the sort of courage to keep going. And then I had this product that I was actually really, really liked. And I showed it to a few friends, and they were really encouraging. And even some, dairy eating friends that I showed brought to a few potlucks and stuff. And they just thought, oh my God, for vegan, this is good. I'm like, okay, so that it tells me that at least I'm on the right track. So that is when I met this guy. You can tell that story.
Yeah, I was driving for Uber at the time, kind of figuring out what to do. I was after ending a previous job, and we had a really good chat. It was a 4-minute drive, and
so he picked me up. I called an Uber, and he picked me up.
And I just dropped you from just somewhere local to home, and we just had this really good chat, and we're like, oh, we should continue this chat.
Yeah.
And we did, and then we became good friends. And then not long after knowing, you told me about the cheese you were making and how good it was, and how nothing out there was doing.
It was the first time we caught up, actually, that I was like, this is what I'm doing, and this is what's happening. And
I wasn't vegan at the time.
Yeah.
It was because talking to this one that sort of one chat with you, and then I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like I was vegetarian, but gave up dairy.
And then I was like, this is the business that I want to start. And what do you say? Let's give it a go. It was all very casual. Awesome. Like, to tell you the truth, neither one of us kind of expected it to get to this level, which is so delightful and amazing.
And why don't you talk a bit more about, when you say this level as a business, obviously you were selling in, bespoke stores in Melbourne, and obviously you were looking to grow throughout Australia. I know COVID hit, but maybe you can talk a little bit more about the growth which you've actually seen in some of the products which you've released so far.
Well, we went from showing our cheese to people in the vegan community just at get-togethers, to the day or two, a week after we launched, just emails from retailers and cafes and restaurants just wanting our products. At the time, we only had the two products, the mozz and the halloumi.
Yeah.
And the halloumi was the driving product at the start by far.
Which, for anyone who doesn't know, was Australia's first vegan halloumi. So that was pretty exciting milestone for us.
Couldn't believe it when we actually got it right.
Nailed it.
It was like, oh my God,
Wow.
we did it. And yeah, it's just been exploding ever since. It took us a year before we had to actually start doing our own sales.
Yeah.
Which was ramping up. And you were going out, you were doing most of the sales, and then that was going really well, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And we couldn't go introduce ourselves and meet people anymore.
Yeah, right. And so where were you selling before? Obviously you had to kind of bring things back down to a slow and steady pace because of Victoria's lockdown. But where were you selling before, and what was your kind of roadmap for obviously being able to sell the cheeses across Australia?
Well, since day one, actually, food service has been sort of our bread and butter, to be honest. Has made up most of our sales. I mean, we've had the online store going since we launched, in a very kind of a small sort of casual way, but throughout, it's just been food service, really, outlets and cafes, restaurants. And we know that those businesses are also, they make up the heart of so many small and large Australian towns and cities. And it's really, it's such an important part of our economy, and it's such an important part of our culture. And so it's really important for us to really maintain and grow those relationships, because we really support them and they support us. And so it's a really beautiful sort of thing that we have going on with them. So when COVID hit, they sort of, obviously, had to shut down a lot of them, and a lot of them had a really, really reduced trade. So that part of our business also took quite a hit. So we decided to sort of refocus our efforts to offering our products online instead, and at a discounted rate. So people could stay safe in their homes while they got home delivery. And that seemed to make everyone really happy, which made us happy.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And, obviously a lot of businesses, when they do get to a stage of growth, they're always knocking on the door of, potential investors. And there's a number of different routes which businesses take. Some, are more suited than others, but I think your business sits in a fantastic position, to equity crowdfund. But I'd really love to understand from your position, what really drove you to go down this route to offer shares to your community and also the larger community through equity crowdfunding.
Well, as soon as we heard about the concept, we loved it because we could actually involve the community in it. We didn't. Yeah, you tell this better.
It seems to tick all of our boxes because we're so community focused, but we also have, pretty lofty goals that we wanted everyone to have a chance to come to the table and be a part of this growth, because it's a huge market, and there's so much room for us and other producers, and that's why we decided to go down the equity crowdfunding as opposed to just equity or just, sort of more casual crowdfunding. We also want people to be able to grow with us. Their investment grows as we grow. So again, it's that relationship, that two-way street that's really, really appealing to us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And we've actually already got a question, which I'd love to just briefly answer, from Richard, who's asked, given the organic evolution today, if things scale quickly, can we chat about the plan to have the right capacity and capability, people and skills, is part of the strategy to find investors who can also be an advisory group?
Yeah.
We've had a
Thank you, Richard. That's a great question.
Yeah, we've had a chat with a couple of the potential investors already in the OI, and to see what skills they have to offer, and that's definitely something to be done. I was trying to reread the question again.
It's I wouldn't say it's our strategy per se, but I would definitely say it's one of our it's one of the best outcomes that we can imagine for this, is to get like-minded people on board who have a really excellent skill set as well, who can help us, basically help to advise us in certain areas. If their specialty is manufacturing, then let's chat. If their specialty is and so on. So that's an amazing added bonus that we would absolutely love to have happen here.
Carry on, Matt.
Yeah. The plan, but the actual plan is to go down the contract manufacturing route, and to get into the larger supermarket chains if we can. We will.
Yeah,
We will.
we will.
We're pretty certain about that. We've got quite a few
100%.
people get us involved.
Yeah, we're very confident.
100%. And I will get back to some of the other questions there, but I'd love to just chip in and kind of answer some of the obvious ones, which really have been asked for a long time throughout your raise. And I know that you've touched on some of the growth and really where you have grown as a business, but is there anything else in particular, maybe current sales or current sales up to COVID, and then, number of sales of each product that you wanted to add on to, your growth that you've seen since inception itself, or maybe some of these figures which, that you wanted to go into?
Actually, that will be included in the offer document.
Got it.
Yeah, we're still sort of pulling all of our numbers together and presenting them in the simplest, most easy to understand way possible. So those details will be available very, very soon, in
Awesome.
1 week's time, actually.
Yeah, that's right. And that's all more of a reason to make sure that you get your EOI in, so that you do get access to the private investment period.
Yeah.
And look, if we scroll a little bit further down here, Emma said that she loves your products and she's just wondering what the 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan is. It's really hard for some early stage startups to even think about past 3 years, because obviously the market changes so rapidly. But Emma's asking, if it gets to a point that you decide to sell the business, or you had an offer to sell to a non-vegan company, would you sell out? And yeah, that's the question.
I guess.
Excellent question.
Short answer, no. And long answer would be very strict sort of conditions.
Yeah.
If to do better, basically, to turn a bad company good, if we thought that was possible. Otherwise, it's something we've been pretty against since the start, that sort of idea.
Our mission, we're very clear on our mission, which is to do the most good possible.
Yeah.
And that means getting our products into as many places as possible. That also means being careful with who we work with and being really diligent in making sure that our values do align. So I hope that answers your question, Emma. It's a big question, and it's very complex answer. And it'll be on a per case basis.
I think, even to add to that, it's interesting because ultimately the funds which do come in and invest into a lot of these businesses, the funds are going into a business either way. So these funds are actively going to invest into businesses, and it's a given that they're going to be investing into dairy-free companies, meat-free companies. It's already happened in the US in a big way. And I know that Oatly got some coverage because they had investment from a fund which, Oprah and Jay-Z had invested into. And that fund has also invested into meat and dairy companies. And ultimately, I feel that so long as the business which is still operating as unable to, and actually enforced to make their own decisions and not be guided by the fund, then it's a very different story as to if the fund is investing into that business and trying to, grow out, the product line into a meat and dairy business, which ultimately that business wouldn't be accepting the investment into anyway. It's a really interesting question, and there's a lot of different viewpoints on it. And I think, my view is that if the business itself is still able to operate and grow the way it has been, then the capital is going somewhere anyway. And if you do take it, and the fund managers still have the right intentions for the business, then great. But ultimately, like you say, you've got to be careful of who is investing and what their motives are. We've had so many questions here. I'm really going to just try to come through a few of these, go through a few of these just so that we can, really just highlight some of the others. But we've had an anonymous question from somebody who's asked if there's any plans with Parmesan.
Oh,
It's not a focus, but
Yeah.
it's definitely it's a little pet project.
It's on our radar.
That we've wanted to do well.
Yeah.
Again, same reason as all the others. Like, we're not quite happy enough with what's out there, and we don't plan on really bringing out anything that we don't feel like we can make a big improvement on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's really important for us. A lot of people have asked us, do you plan to go into meats? You know, are you going to make a plant-based burger next? The answer is maybe down the line, like, but that's a very, 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 very far away sort of idea, because it's been done.
Yeah.
You know, there's a few companies around the world that are nailing the vegan burger.
Yeah.
So we don't want to spend our time and energy making, you know, a 10% improvement on a product that's already really great. We would much rather take, you know, dairy, for example, or the dairy-free category, and make a huge improvement there, because there's so much room for it.
Agreed.
And because honestly, I miss cheddar. I miss cheddar all the time. It's been a long, long time. And so, like, just like way back when I was experimenting with the mozzarella, if I can't find it, I'm just gonna make it. You know? Yeah. So that's where we're focused.
Absolutely.
It's hard to find items.
Yeah, great answer. And we've had a question from Robert here, who's asking, you know, how much are you looking to raise, and what type of investors are you looking for? I know that you've already touched on what type of investors you're looking for, but maybe you wanted to touch on how much you're looking to raise. And also the second question, which can tie into this, is what are the use of funds?
Yes. Let me address the use of funds first.
Yeah.
So we will transition to our plastic-free packaging, which is super exciting. We will also be moving our manufacturing into a contract manufacturing situation, so that we can reduce our costs. We can reduce the costs for us, for the people who are purchasing, at every single level, which is super, super exciting, because we know that one of the main barriers to people purchasing our products is price point. We totally understand it. And that's because everything is handmade right now, which is basically expensive. You know what I mean? Just the small scale model that we're doing right now, it's great, but for us, it's unsustainable. It's just not where we want to grow out of.
It's not the most good we can do.
Exactly. So we will be reducing our price, and we'll actually also be in many, many, many more locations than we are now. And I saw that in the question somewhere, someone, Kohl's, Woolies, IGA, absolutely, 100%.
Amazing.
And we can't say 100% will be there. It's, you know, I can't make that kind of promise to you, but it's our 100% intention, and we are confident that it will happen.
Great, fantastic. And Dylan's asked an interesting question here, which is around, has your current business model been profitable, and how do you plan on expanding on this?
It has been profitable enough. It's been moving
slightly.
Like COVID's been difficult, but
and the small scale.
It's, what was the second part of the question? Sorry.
And how do you plan on expanding on this?
Well, we plan,
carry on.
We plan on changing the business model. Like, instead of making it ourselves with a few employees, we're going to outsource to a contract manufacturer who we will choose very carefully. But they'll also be able to do a lot of things that take a lot of money, like HACCP approval and like high level stuff like that. And then instead of going to only ourselves, going to small retailers, going to large retailers and getting our cheese everywhere, which is pretty different from what we're doing now.
Yeah. Awesome. That answers that. And I think, just before, we've got tons here. Alessio has asked, sorry, I'm a bit late. I'm not sure if you cover that already, but can we talk a bit more about future products you will bring to the market? This is an exciting topic.
Thanks for tuning in. We just covered the possibility of a Parmesan, which I know is very exciting to you. We know Alessio, so Alessio is an excellent.
Is that Alessio?
Yeah, Alessio runs the lasagna lab here in Melbourne, and it's fantastic. Anyway, so we're thinking about a Parmesan, but it's not the very first thing on our to-do list. The first thing is a cheddar, because it's in such high demand. We are also thinking about possibly maybe a cream cheese maybe sour cream.
And personally, I'd like to get the Brie and Puff that we used to have, the limited edition. I'd like to get that as just the Brie.
Yeah.
Getting that perfected as a standalone cheese.
We had quite a few customers who were gluten intolerant, and they couldn't have it because it was in pastry. So we want to be able to have them throw it on a cheese board and share it with their friends.
Yeah, gotcha. That's awesome. That answers that. And I think this touches on a question which you have had, and one which I kind of had for you, which was a little bit, which is very, very similar to a question that you've had a lot. And, we know that there's a lack of vegan cheese options out there. And obviously, the motive behind you doing it was really to scratch your own itch. And the motive behind doing a cheddar is completely driven by the market here. But when it comes to competition, you kind of mentioned the differences in, obviously, people are tackling the meat-free, looking at meat-free options like vegan burgers and vegan sausages. But really, other than the mainstream brands, I don't find that I have access to a lot of vegan cheeses. There really aren't a lot of options out there. Is that really kind of the decision that helped you to obviously drive the business into the position that it's in now, and obviously grow in this way?
Absolutely. 100%. Availability is everything. If people can't find the products, if they can't purchase them, they don't get them. It's as simple as that. Sorry, did you want to say something?
I can add to that.
I thought you started saying something earlier, so I didn't want to sorry.
It's just the gap. There's just such a big gap. It was just so ripe to go into it, and the stuff that was coming out, we weren't happy with. A lot of better stuff's come out since we started, definitely.
But it's still not widely available.
Yeah,
that's the thing. There are a few small producers around the country, and most of them we know and we love. Like the vegan cheese company culture is really tight in Australia, and we love that so much. We all support each other. But it's rare to find an Australian-made vegan cheese on the supermarket shelves, because most of them are made from Greece, in the US, just around the world. And it's great to have them, but it's a whole different ballgame when we're talking about locally owned and locally made, because then we're just supporting our economy, which is great, especially when it comes to, post-COVID times.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got another question here from Kay, saying, how does this work? If I take up a $50 option, do I earn shares in the company? So I'll answer this one. Effectively, look, Birchal is an equity crowdfunding platform. We hold an Australian financial services license to host offers for early stage companies throughout Australia. And so in 6 days' time, when the Hello Friends Food investment offer is live and the investment offer and the offer document is complete, you will have access to the offer document. You'll also have access to a private deal room on which you are able to make an investment. And that, of course, will result in you owning shares in the company. Now, the minimum parcel size is yet to be fully determined, but it is likely to be around the potentially $250 mark, even down $100. But this is yet to be finalized. So effectively, yes, it will result in you earning a share in the company. And I think that leads on really perfectly to a question below from Lucas, saying he loves the products and just wanted to ask, in terms of the market, you mentioned it's fairly large in Australia. Have you or Birchal done research on this and the future market opportunities? And I'll hand this over to you.
We have. Australia is the third largest vegan market in the world, which is huge. And if we have a lot of stats around plant-based milk, how that's followed, sort of like the contrast between dairy and plant-based milk. And if plant-based cheese follows plant-based dairy, it is estimated to be a $600 million market in Australia by the year 2025, which is a huge opportunity. And like we said, there's so few players in the game right now that it's just, we're perfectly placed. So we feel really fortunate to be where we are right now. And we feel really excited for the people who are coming on board with us too. It's an opportunity for all of us.
Yeah, 100%. And plant-based milk has just exploded really in the past few years. The
Crazy.
differences in being able to purchase it 4 or 5 years ago compared to now, it's night and day. It really is. You know, you've got a huge, like almost half an aisle sometimes in choice in some supermarkets, whereas like 4 or 5 years ago, there were two options for something like soy milk, and you could usually just get soy, almond, and then occasionally coconut, and there wasn't availability. Nobody was purchasing them,
Yeah.
and now they are just exploding. And companies in America are investing billions into getting their operations up and running because it's a more profitable product for them. So commercially, it makes sense. And you know, from our perspective, we much prefer it because obviously that's what everybody's buying, and they're buying it at a much higher dollar value. So yeah, I can absolutely see where you're going with that. We've just got a question below here as well from Kiki, who's just wondering about the burn rate for HelloFriend Foods so far, and if we'll be able to read any financial reports from the start to finish, from the start of the business up until now. Offer document will conclude a lot of this, and can, you know, have a lot of this information. But is there anything else you wanted to touch on, other than really this information is all going to be in the offer document?
Pretty much. And it's also that the burn rate and all the financials aren't necessarily a good indicator of how well we can do, because we were testing. Basically, we're just seeing if the product was viable. We haven't actually really tried to grow. I mean, it was at the start, we were growing a bit. I thought, oh, we're doing sales, but the point is we've just been seeing if it works. That's been a massive
feedback.
Yeah.
We've been seeking feedback. We've been putting our feelers out to the market and going, is there a place for this? I mean, we thought there was, but we want to make sure that there is before we really invest in going out there. So that's what this last few years has been for us, is a lot of testing and a lot of going, this is what we think, but is this proof? And now we know.
And also conversations with people, like getting a lot of advice on how to move and how to do what we're doing. Let us hear.
100%. 100%. No, I absolutely love that. And I just want to say, I absolutely love all the questions which are coming in. Having hosted a number of these webinars, I've never experienced so many questions, but I'd love to really answer these questions as opposed to completely go back to all the stock questions which we have, and hopefully we'll cover all of these off. So really, to serve everybody who's here, I'd love to answer a lot of these questions which are coming through. So Robert has asked, do you have any contract manufacturers shortlisted? Have you tested using their equipment?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine it's very tough at this point in time because, you know, social distancing and you know what Victoria's restrictions are like. So that ticks that one off.
I mean, we have a short list, but we haven't started our relationships with any of them yet.
Got it.
Also, and we're in contact with people who also use contract manufacturers who are helping us search for them. And another one is that we've had very limited time because we also still work in the kitchen. The first thing we're doing with these funds are hiring some employees to free us up to actually grow the business.
Yeah,
absolutely. I met a very similar business owner. I know you probably will know them, but I just don't want to mention them. Really want to just highlight that I did meet somebody else who was in a very similar position. They just could never get out of the kitchen. And they had like a desk in the corner with a computer. I would never be able to get hold of them throughout the day. And they'd send me emails at like 8, 9 o'clock in the evening. And that was the only time at which they were active. So I knew if I had to get hold of them, pick up the phone, just call them.
And that's manufacturing in as a small business when you're doing it all yourself, which is why we know for us, that it's just not sustainable. Not if our goal is growth, which it most definitely is.
100%. And Rory's asked a question here asking if you're going to be contract manufacturing at a vegan factory. I think this is going to be very challenging for some cases. And I don't know really if there's, contract manufacturers out there who completely cater to the vegan industry. But if there are, I'm sure they'd be probably the number 1 or number 2 pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if that would be our first choice, but also if we have a vegan manufacturer who puts out a subpar product at a higher cost, that doesn't work for us at this stage, because again, we're focused on the most good we can do. Like, I know we keep saying it, but it's such a core tenet for us, and it really helps to inform a lot of our decision making. So we'll be looking for the best, most reliable contract manufacturer that we can count on to put out an excellent product at a low cost, that we can build a relationship with, and
with a good history of like not screwing up, basically. We don't we don't want to have to recall our product because milk gets into it or something like that. It's a huge problem, and it's something we want to avoid, and we wouldn't go with someone that we thought that would happen with.
100%. And you've got another question on contract manufacturing here. So bringing on a contract manufacturer and leveraging an in-market distributor both take away from your margin. Combining this with your plans to reduce your price point, when do you think you'll become cash flow positive? And I know that you've already answered part of this. So
actually, that's an excellent question. I think because
it depends on how low we can get the price, basically.
Exactly.
Of course.
And we'll know that when we're able to negotiate with all the partners that we're going to be working with.
For sure.
As well, in the offer document, we have sort of a table of our goals and where we're headed and when, and that will help to inform that question as well.
Yeah, great. Awesome. And Richard had asked here, are you currently working full-time in the business, or is this currently a side venture? And will that change post-raise? I don't think I could.
Great question, Richard.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Honestly, by week one, we had to quit. Week one, as in a week after we launched, we had to quit our day jobs and work on this full time.
It's two full. We work on it 2 full times. Two full-time jobs.
We each have 2 jobs.
And it's the business.
100%. I can't even imagine the stresses of somebody trying to do a full-time job around running a business which manufactures its own products as well.
It's we can kind of consider it like Matthew said, 2 jobs. Like, we have the admin side is one job, and then we have the kitchen side, which is another job. So most of our days are doing both. You know, we don't take time off very often. We haven't.
I know. I've been working closely with you for a while now, and I know that. Dylan here has asked a question asking if you have any existing leads to secure contracts with larger stockists like Coles, etc.
We have multiple. They're just coming out of the woodwork, honestly. People who want to connect us to these
to their person in Woolies.
To their person.
See,
or Coles.
100%. There's actually a fascinating story with a business called Collie Rice, which raised funds through equity crowdfunding in the UK. They've actually raised funds through equity crowdfunding in the UK 7 times. They've expanded to the US. They're doing incredibly well. And after their first raise, they really wanted to get into Tesco's, which is the biggest supermarket chain in the UK. And rather than going down the traditional routes of trying to find somebody who could make an introduction to the buyer, they messaged all their investors and just asked, does anybody have a connection to anybody at Tesco? One of the investors actually made an introduction to a buyer and fast-tracked them to be able to get their product in Tesco's. And I thought that was literally the possible way that you could be able to get an introduction from somebody who said, I love the product and I really like to continue to support you, and then they got the opportunity to make that introduction. It's just a huge win for the company and the investors there. So I really loved that story.
I love that.
And then we've had another question here from Goran. I really do hope I've said that right. And they've asked, are there many options in terms of contract manufacturing? Do you already have anyone interested in taking you on? I know that you've already answered this, so I won't ask you to answer it in more detail again. So we've had a question here from Robert. How are you going to get the product into major retailers? I think this is an interesting question, which perhaps you've considered further if changes are going to be made, or obviously price point is going to be a huge factor here. But, getting the product into major retailers, it just takes a bit of time sometimes.
It does. And we've planned for that.
Yeah.
Again, in the offer document, there will be, there's a whole table with our timeline just sort of laid out as far as when we're going to be doing things. But we also have to do a lot of testing too, and a lot of testing with the new plastic-free packaging, which we're so excited about. It's something we've been wanting to do since we started, and it took a while for us to find the right packaging that suited us, and the company wasn't greenwashed, and just it took a while. But now that we found the perfect product for us, we need to test with it. We need to make sure it performs like we think it will
with our product.
Exactly. And within the new contract manufacturing systems as well. Because if we're testing it the way we're making it now, it's going to have a completely different result. So all these create sort of checkpoints to us being able to say we're in Coles and Woolies. You know what I mean? So
we're estimating 6 to 12 months. Short answer.
Great. That's awesome. And Lana here has asked if you can specify how much you're looking to raise. And I'd love to really just preface this with saying that through equity crowdfunding, there is a minimum and then a maximum target. If you haven't already seen some of the live offers on Birchal, and essentially the minimum target will have a table in the offer document, which will break down where the costs, where the spending is going to be allocated at an investment parcel size and at the maximum parcel size as well. And so that's going to be broken down in the offer document. But I'd love you to just comment really a bit more on, what your thoughts are. And this is going to be finalized next week as well.
Yeah. So this isn't finalized yet, but at the moment it's minimum of $200,000. $200,000. Sorry.
Not $200. We won't last very long if that's what we have.
And a maximum of 500 at this point, but that's
it's changeable. Yeah.
It depends if a lot of people have come up with lots of ideas on how we can go about things and opportunities and how we could use the funds, and so we may end up changing that.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, just out of interest, between the 200 to the 5 compared to the 500, obviously you've spoke a little bit about use of funds, and that can probably fulfill most, you could fulfill most of that with the 200K. What additionally could you do with the 500K if you were able to raise that?
Start as faster. Also, it allows more room if like the COVID, if there's a third wave in Victoria, it might change things, or who knows how things are going to turn out. More products sooner as well. We could launch with a wider product range potentially.
R&D.
And much more marketing as well. Faster and harder hitting, basically. The more we raise.
Awesome. And Kiki here has asked a question below, saying also, what's your business structure so far?
We were just discussing this morning.
The offer document has a section for the business structure.
We were looking at some other offer documents, to get an idea what other people have structured.
More
and
advanced
they have
companies.
Like 15, 20 things, that we have 4. We have 4.
We have us. We have a social media and admin person.
Yep.
And we have an employee in the kitchen.
One kitchen employee. So that is our business structure. You're looking at it, Kiki.
That's awesome. Look, personally, I absolutely love working with businesses who are operating very lean, and the founders have had to learn so many new skills since they've started the job and the main task of really incorporating and growing the business and keeping up with demand. And that means that when you ask those founders for, responses, and you ask them questions, they don't say, let me get back to you on that. Let me ask, my finance or my tech guy. Let me ask this person. They just know because they have to know. And I absolutely love that personal experience on my side. So thanks for the question, Kiki. And just below, James has asked a couple of questions here, asking where your products are manufactured and where the ingredients are sourced. So I'm guessing this is more current and less to do with your contract manufacturer, which obviously you can't answer the questions on yet.
So what was the first part of the question?
Where are your products manufactured at the moment, and where are the ingredients sourced?
At the moment we produce in Cheltenham in Victoria. That's where we produce.
We share our factory with another vegan business. So our factory right now is an all vegan factory, which is really excellent. And just to clarify a little something, it is. about the ingredients. A lot of people have come back and gone, is it gluten-free? Is it not gluten-free? What do I do? I'm celiac. Here's the clear answer as far as right now goes. There is no gluten in our products. We do not put gluten in our products. Having said that, they are produced in a space that also handles gluten and nuts and other allergens, because the other company that we share the space with uses those things. We don't even produce at the same time as she does, and we don't even use the same equipment or anything like that. So contamination probability is very low. But having said that, that is why gluten is not included in our ingredients list, but that we also are not calling ourselves gluten-free either.
Yeah.
I know it's a bit of a tricky one for a lot of people.
As far as where we source this coconut oil, we're pretty proud of sourcing. We're actually, what is the actual country?
I keep forgetting. I'm so sorry.
It's so it's a company in Queensland, and they source the coconuts from island countries.
Solomon Islands.
Solomon Islands. Thank you.
They're called Coconut Pacific.
Yeah.
With a coconut with a K. And they're not for profit, and so they source all their oil from their local communities that have all these coconuts, and then 100% of the profits goes back to supporting the communities in the villages, in education and quality of life, and all those necessary things that really make a difference.
That's great.
And so we're really, really proud of that.
Yeah, I can imagine. A lot of thought has clearly gone into it. And it really does show in not only the way you present your products and the way you talk about them, but the way somebody even has a touch point with the product. And it's like, the branding, it's Hello Friend. It's really inclusive. You want everybody to be able to enjoy it, vegan or not. And that really does show. And we've actually just had a comment from Sarah who said that she has to go and is asking about a recording. So I really just want to highlight to everybody that we are recording this. We will be sending a recording back to everybody so they can watch it in their own time if they really wanted to go over some of the questions in a bit more detail, just so if you didn't get a chance to catch all of it. And James did also ask a question about your employees and your structure, but you answered that just before. So hopefully we've answered that one for you, James. And we've had an interesting question here, actually. Have you thought about creating a yogurt, maybe a Greek yogurt? I miss Greek yogurt and can't stand the coconut-based yogurts.
Creams and yogurts?
Yes.
Definitely something I've had going in the back of my mind, trying to work out how I do it. It's not at the front of our list, to be honest. But if we were to expand our range into yogurts or into creams, it would definitely be very fun to do, actually. Sorry, I always think about these things at first. Well, how fun would it be to create first?
Matthew's much more of like a math
before
scientist.
The profits. But I've thought about it. It's a possibility if everything goes well. Obviously, we'll expand our range. We'll just keep expanding into other food groups.
For example, the sauce was never supposed to happen. It was never something that we set out to make, but it was in the kitchen. We were experimenting and we're going, and I've always been a fan of cheese sauce with nachos and stuff and pasta and mac and cheese.
Who isn't?
And I was like, if we can get like a vegan version of like Kraft dinner, that I grew up in Canada. That's what I used to eat all the time. So you never know. And that's what's fun about being able to be the producers as well as throughout this and, throughout the future, we're going to just keep experimenting, just creating and seeing what we can do.
And make what we can create, what we can make better as well.
Exactly.
We're always looking to tweak our products and make them more realistic, or having alternate versions of them as well. It's a possibility of that as well.
So we're looking forward to having much more time to go back into the kitchen and start creating more like we used to.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, you never know. It's not at the top of our list, but it could happen anytime. And if it happens, well, if we create a product accidentally, then let's run with it.
You're always welcome to start a campaign to get us to do it.
Yeah.
If you get enough people on board, we'll do it.
Let's do it. And there's actually a couple of questions here which are perfect for me to answer. And they're from somebody anonymous, so I can't mention who's asked these, but they've asked when and how will we be able to withdraw our initial investment along with any associated profits. So when you invest into an equity crowdfunding, an equity crowdfunding campaign into an early stage startup, the main thing that you've really got to remember is that the business is raising funds to use those funds to go on and further grow. And so thinking about immediate profits and being able to perhaps exit within a couple of months is more so a mindset for the stock market, less so than an equity crowdfunding campaign whereby an early stage startup is raising funds upon which it's looking to grow. But by any case, the regime actually locks you in for a minimum of 12 months. But then after that, it will be subject to the business and their decision to potentially do something like a shareholder buyback, go live with an initial public offering, which will enable you with the ability to be able to sell those shares on the stock market. And then also whether or not private equity looks to potentially buy the business. We've already mentioned this earlier, buy a stake in the business. Potentially that has happened, especially in maturer markets such as the UK, where equity crowdfunding has been around since 2011. And then another option, which is pretty rare actually, considering early stage startups and the way in which they raise funds, but is dividends. And that's where you can potentially receive a small share of the profits depending on your stake in the business itself. And so when it comes to investing into an early stage startup, the real motive behind it is to invest and hold the shares for a longer period of time, and expect to hold the shares for a longer period of time, but really be able to watch the company, watch it grow. And the thing is actually what you find is that most people, especially if you look at some of the biggest success stories in equity crowdfunding, such as Revolut, at any point in time, they've actually been presented with opportunities on multiple occasions upon which to exit with their shares. At one point, it was a 20 times value upon which they'd invested into the company, and way less than half of those investors chose to exit. So ultimately, invest for the long term and know that the business itself is really using those funds to grow the business, less so to be able to get a quick return and to provide that quick return back to investors.
Thanks,
I
Robin.
think, yeah, that's really, and then there's a question here, which is what type of shares are available. They're actually ordinary shares and they all hold a voting right. And so each individual share holds a voting right. So for means, and really you can read this about this in the Constitution of Hello Friend Foods when the offer is open next week. But you will understand exactly when the company is likely to need to get a vote for things such as corporate governance in the company. And your shares, while they're ordinary, absolutely everybody's shares in this round, which is going to be opening next week, are ordinary shares which hold voting rights, and they're all at exactly the same price. So that really is the point, is that everybody is coming in under the same terms at the same price. Did you want to add anything else to that, or do you? Yep, perfect.
That about covers it.
Yeah, great. And Debbie has answered a question. We would be putting our faith in these guys. Can we hear a little bit more about what you have done and why we should give you that faith? Yeah, I guess really a bit more of the backstory of the how you got here. I know you explained that a little bit earlier, but obviously kind of having built up your brand now, you are really in I think a pretty strong position to be able to grow quite quickly across the country. But I'd love you to really elaborate and build on that.
Well, we created the first vegan halloumi in Australia, and it went crazy. People loved it. Everyone who tastes our products are blown away by them. Yeah. That's two big things going for us. Yeah. We're good at seeking out knowledge bases and help and advice for things that we are new to, and then acting on that.
I think, yeah. So, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and we've made it a viable company. Like we're all over Australia now.
Yeah.
I'm running out of things to say. I
think it speaks to what we can do. You know, neither one of us have food backgrounds. You know, Matthew was a lighting technician and I was in hospitality, but, you know, management, not actually in the kitchen or anything. And I think if, you know, two crazy kids can create these really game-changing products with no training and honestly learning as we go, because neither one of us sent a whole lot of emails before we started the company. And, we're, as Robin said, you have to learn everything because we're doing everything. And I think that kind of speaks to our ambition moving forward. And so we're really confident. We've always been confident, and that's not changing anytime soon. And especially considering where the market is, it's perfect. So we're really excited about where we're going and how we're going to expand. And we really appreciate the faith that has been placed in us thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've had a question here from Goran, who's asked what it would take to get a contract with a food chain. I think this would be really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
And is this something you see as a goal? I'm sure from your answers it is.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Already is. Yeah. Again, food service has been huge for us. But we knew that it wasn't the right time to approach large, quick service restaurants, like fast food places, like, all the ones that we see on every street in this country. We knew it wasn't the right time because we couldn't scale to that level with the production that we're doing right now. We just can't. We can't do it in the space that we're in, and we can't do it with the small amount of employees that we have. So that is 100% a goal for us.
And we have been and are in contact with a few of them. Not none of the major ones yet, but nothing huge ones. But there are a lot of medium ones we've been speaking to.
Yeah,
100%. And then just below, I've got another question for me, which is asking how secure Birchal is as a platform for investors' data and financial information. I'd really just like to highlight that again, that Birchal has an Australian financial services license, and we actually were one of the very first platforms to receive an Australian financial services license for equity crowdfunding, specifically back in 2018 at the beginning of the year. And we absolutely have to adhere to ASIC's guidelines and rules around privacy, investor data information. We've hosted over 50 successful offers and seen over 20,000 investors come into these offers and successfully raise funds. And we really do have to adhere to these rules and regulations. And I really want to just assure everybody that Birchal as a platform is fully licensed, and that's why we're in the position that we're in, whereby we're hosting offers for businesses such as Hello Friend Foods. So please do let me know if there's any other questions which come around the regime itself and perhaps financial information. And then if we look below, there's another question which is also for me. Are you accepting investments from Robert? Are you accepting investments from entities other than individuals, trusts, companies, self-managed super funds, etc.? Individuals, trusts, companies, self-managed super funds, so long as you've done your own research and you can invest via these vehicles, then these are probably all the options that you have upon which you can invest into a company. And when you go invest into Hello Friend Foods rather, and when you're going through the process, you'll have a little chatbot in the bottom right-hand corner, which will be able to direct you on how to invest as a company compared to an individual. And it's pretty straightforward through the platform itself. So yeah, it is possible via all these vehicles. But I'd love to specifically know, Robert, and you can feel free to message me after this if there's perhaps an SPV that you were thinking about and considering that you wanted to invest via. And then we've got a question here from Jane. Do you plan to increase the currently very local content of your cheeses?
If possible, absolutely. We're committed to quality. And yeah, that's, we as we said a few times, it's, but in different ways, we're not interested in making a mediocre product. So that making a really high level premium product has always been step one for us.
Yeah, 100%. And there's a question here from Mark, which is really a little bit more around the projection of the business and where you see yourself in 3 years. Basically stating, where do you see yourself in 3 years? Running yourselves, or are you hoping to be bought out by a larger player? P.S. Love the product. We have it available at 2 local cafes.
Hello, Mark. Thank you.
3 years, unlikely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like we keep saying, the most good we can do. If being bought out was the best thing for the business and for what we're trying to achieve, then that's an option. But it's unlikely in 3 years' time for that to be the case.
And we're not done yet.
Yeah, we're not, and we're certainly not
No.
done. It would be so we can do something better and be
Yeah.
done if that was the case. Otherwise, we'll use Hello Friend Foods to do the most good we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a question here from Dylan. Do you have a planned marketing strategy and budget, which company will you partner with for this if you do decide to partner with a company?
That'll be in the offer document. So that'll be all fleshed out there.
Yeah. Awesome.
Much easier than going through all of it. It's
Everybody's
complicated.
eagerly awaiting the offer document, as they always are. It comes to this crunch point in time and everybody's just messaging us, messaging you, saying, when can we see the offer document?
It's exciting.
Coming. Yeah. Absolutely. Can you elaborate more on the plastic-free packaging? Does that reduce shipping costs from your online store?
No. It's currently not available yet, the plastic-free packaging.
Yeah.
It will be plastic-like, but it will break down very easily when it's not holding our cheese.
I think I understand what the question might have been. I
Is it
think
jars or
some
something?
yeah, right. Some people think that we offer a service where we can offer it with no packaging.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that would reduce the cost because of our short shelf life, it's not something we've been able to offer up until now, which is why we've been looking for this new plastic-free packaging still that looks and feels like plastic.
Can I add something? So
Yeah,
one of the
course,
reasons
go.
we haven't changed sooner is because we learned this quite early on when we were talking to a food scientist about going plastic-free, is that first we learned that a lot of people greenwash and it's plastic-free, but the thing still takes forever to break down.
It just breaks down in smaller bits and then stays in landfills.
It's may as well be plastic.
Yeah.
And the second one is that a lot of plastic-free things don't work as well, and so the product gets wasted. And so there's more. You may not be using plastic, but you're still causing waste like greenhouse gases and all that sort of thing through wastage and food wastage and like all the bad things that come from growing any food, there's always negatives to things. So one of the reasons we haven't switched is because we didn't want to increase our food wastage by just using less plastic and causing more problems in that direction than the direction we've taken.
Yeah, absolutely.
We knew it was important to wait and find a really, really good one. And just to expand on that just for a second, so the packaging will be made from corn, potatoes, and
one or two others. Well, it was my line. I had to say
it was his line in the
4
video.
times in the video.
Anyway, vegetables and it's fully home compostable. Rice, potatoes, and corn. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's fully home compostable. So you can just chuck it in your home compost bin and it breaks right down, which is awesome.
The big companies should already be doing this, but
I know.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been waiting for. The good stuff.
Awesome. That's incredible. That's incredible. And Richard here has asked a really interesting question, which is, if you raised a ton of cash, which means obviously if you hit your maximum target, might you consider a leased kitchen team just for the Hello Friend Foods business?
I don't actually understand the question.
So if you raised your maximum target, rather than going down the contract manufacturing route, might you consider leasing a kitchen and obviously being able to control that aspect of your business?
Oh, sorry. Were you paused?
No, I'm just thinking. You can go.
It's always a very remote possibility. So, for example, if we go out, if we can't find a contract manufacturer that suits us, for example, or we have to wait. We know these relationships take a bit of time. So in the meantime, we are currently leasing a kitchen. That's what we're doing. So we will be hiring a few more employees, expanding that small scale up to its maximum in the meantime, until we're able to find that manufacturing relationship.
Of course. That makes.
I hope that answers their question.
That makes complete sense. And we've got a question below asking what the share price is. And I'd love to say, but that will be in the offer document next week. So I'm sure you'll be eagerly awaiting that. And then below, we do have a question. Firstly, thank you both for the most amazingly gooey cheese sauce. Tell anyone and everyone about it. My 2 questions, if I may. Are you both vegan? Yes. And if so, what is the number 1 reason for being vegan?
Oh gosh, that is a personal decision. For me personally,
Yeah. I guess.
oh, okay. I thought it was like, what is the global number one reason? I don't know. It's the animals. 100% for me. All the rest are really important too, but that is where my heart lies.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Animals as well, with
Yeah.
environment and health coming in close second.
Yeah.
Totally fair enough. And I know we've hit 1 o'clock. We've still got 12 questions. I'd love to get through these 12 questions. And then I'm going to cut and draw a line in the sand and say for anybody else,
rapid fire.
just we will take the questions offline and we will obviously answer them in due course. But I'm going to fire through all of these. So thank you very much for that question there. Are you planning these products with future goals, future global exports in the next 3 years, which is in brackets, in mind, or just looking at the Australian market only?
No, what does it used to say? Worldwide cheese domination.
Yes,
That's
our goal. That's our goal. First Australia.
Yeah.
First, we want to make sure we take care of home.
Yeah.
And then off we go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And ideally, yes, in the next 3 years. That's our plan.
Yeah.
Great.
No promises, but that's our plan.
And Annie here has asked if the whole webinar will be available online afterwards. I'll actually send it to everybody who signed up, so don't worry about that. That's no problem at all. Richard got kicked out. Did you get to all? Robert, sorry, got kicked out. Did you answer my other questions? We actually answered, I think, all of your questions which came through, Robert. So if you listen to the recording after this, you should be able to get hold of all the answers to those. We've had another question from Annie here. This hasn't been discussed. What's the plan for return on investment? We have already discussed this in a fair amount of detail. Don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to add to this.
No,
everything you said.
It's pretty,
It's like you help us, we do well, and
we all win.
You benefit down the road.
Yeah.
We use your money up to make something happen, and then we get more money back, and then you get the money.
It's awesome. And David has just said, Brie, just give me Brie. He really wants Brie, vegan Brie. I'm sure it's another product which is potentially on the roadmap behind cheddar. But yeah, you're working on it. That's as much as we need.
Perfect.
It has to be perfect. Yeah.
So Natalie has asked, I love your products and can't wait to see you expand. Do you have a current timeline or goal of when you hope to start producing with the new manufacturer? I think this is going to be ambiguous until we're out of lockdown fully, until restrictions ease, and then it's really pretty ambiguous at the moment. So I don't know if you could fully answer that one.
3 to 6 months is what we're looking at.
As soon as possible,
Yeah, and Erin here has asked a question. You mentioned minimum investment amount and that Hello Friend Foods is looking to achieve. What happens to investors' funds in the likely event that they don't reach the minimum target? So in the terms and conditions, if Hello Friend Foods doesn't meet that minimum target of 200K, then no funds are raised, no investors' funds are taken. Just to let everybody know, we're really, from the interest that we've seen over the last few weeks, we're really very unlikely to be in that position. But just to really cover off the terms and conditions, yes, no investors' funds will be taken or collected. And if anybody has paid early, then those funds will be transferred back to them. And I think when it comes to a minimum investment amount, I feel like I almost answered that one for you, and I didn't give you a chance to state exactly where you were thinking yourselves. So I'd love to just understand from your perspective, if this is something you haven't fully finalized yet, or you did have a figure in mind that you wanted to stick with.
We haven't fully finalized it. We're looking at $100.
Yeah, great.
As
awesome.
The lowest.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Richard had to jump off. Great session. Thanks. Annie, will the labeling also be home compostable? Interesting question. Yes. Fantastic.
That's really important to us.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Good question.
So, and then Robert has said, once we've had a chance to review the offer document, will you run another one of these sessions? I think that's a really interesting question because we haven't planned to, but gauging from how many questions there are, I think it's probably going to be the best option to do so. So
no reason why we can't.
Absolutely. Great question, Robert. And Stefania has said, thank you guys. I'll keep an eye out for the offer document. And then Joe has said, is there a stockist in Darwin so we can try the product?
The one place we're not Well, that will actually
a
Perth
few
as well,
places
but-
that we're not yet. We'd like to have a stockist there. Our struggles have been finding a reasonably priced courier transport, basically.
You might have to wait till we're in the supermarkets, unfortunately.
Maybe. We're trying though. I'm still trying, reaching out, a little bits to here and there to stockists. And if you have, to the person asking the question, if you have a local stockist that you think would be really open to our products, then please, we'd happily take an introduction, or even just send us their name and we'll reach out to them. We love taking suggestions. Yeah, and that goes for a feedback for our entire product range as well. If anyone has feedback about our cheeses,
please, we
love feedback. So just send us an email, DM, Instagram, however you like to contact us.
It's actually really hard to come by honest feedback.
Yeah. So
that's awesome. And I was just going to ask, actually, just before we do wrap up, are there, any questions which you feel like you would have loved to have been asked, or any further information that you'd love to share before we do wrap up and, tell everybody that we're obviously eagerly awaiting the offer document, and they'll be sent it as soon as possible, and they'll also be sent a recording of this webinar.
Other questions?
Anything that we've missed?
We've covered so much.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Oh, we're at over 660 EOIs now at the moment. So
it's not really a question, but it's very encouraging. We have been
very exciting.
So it's warmed our hearts so much with how much people are interested in what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Going through we have some notes up over questions in case we needed to, in case we weren't getting any questions from the Here we go. We can talk about these things, but I don't think we had that problem.
Yeah, I think we've covered. I think we've gotten across everything. There's no other questions that
Yeah. I think just to almost round it up, Joe here has asked if you've got a current distributor. Have you got somebody in place, or somebody who you're looking to engage after this raise?
We have been speaking with distributors. They've honestly, not to toot our horn, but we have been courted by distributors for years. And there's a few reasons why we haven't gone down that route, because we've been wanting to control our growth to make sure that we really maintain that high quality product. And also because our shelf life is a bit of a challenge for some distributors who have a long lead time. We've been keeping the relationships with our distributors really sort of warm and happy, and they're waiting for us when we're ready to do so.
Yeah, some of them know about what we're doing and that we plan to fix our shelf life, or extend our shelf life as soon as we're done.
And in the meantime, we have a few small people who are sort of acting as distributors. We have one in Queensland and one in Sydney as well. But those are very small enterprises who are sort of growing with us. So we're well aligned.
Yeah, great. That's awesome. And I think even just to round up one comment which you've had here from Carolee, to say, here's some honest feedback. Your cheese sauce is the best I've ever tasted, and I've tasted most, if not all of them. Which is
thanks, Carolee.
Lovely to see. And I think which I really want to highlight is that the expression of interest campaign is going to be running until 10 p.m. on Monday night. So then that means that on Tuesday, we'll be looking to open up the investment offer, at which time you'll be given access to the offer document, the Constitution subscription agreement, and you'll actually be able to complete your investment at this stage. So if there's anybody who you would like to come and check out the Hello Friend Foods offer, or if you haven't expressed an interest to invest already, please do so that you can have early access. And if there are any questions that you wanted to ask but haven't had a chance to ask on this session because there were perhaps so many questions, do feel free to email me afterwards. I'll send you a follow-up with the recording of this webinar. But thanks so much, Brie and Matt. It's been an absolute pleasure. And it's been so great tuning in and doing this session and answering all of your questions that have come in. So thank you very much to everybody who's tuned in today. Yeah. Thanks very much, Brie and Matt. It's been great. I can't wait for the next one. It will be exciting. Right? I think after the offer document, that's going to be a 2-hour session. So
same time next week.
Anyway, thanks very much, everybody. Yeah, very much so looking forward to opening up the offer next week. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.